Hey Megan, how you doing? So I've got your work up here, and I want to talk about the writing. And I know I talk about this a lot, and it's really, really very relevant. But I always recommend that students include a nice written um, summary of their experience with the assignment. And I think it's a really relevant thing to do, not only in this class but any class. And the reason I say this is because it's for us instructors, for I should say for we instructors, it's a wonderful way for us to determine exactly what you're learning. So right here, based on what you're writing here, you're telling me that you have learned based on the reaction to your first spread, your first the recommendations and observations that your peers have made, and that you're able to adjust those and understand what your peers are seeing as opposed to what you were seeing or what you intended in the first attempt. And that's why critique is so important to the design process. So to read that you have adjusted and made adaptations based on comments is really what design is all about to a very high degree in a professional setting. Um, so this is excellent. So let me see where are we at the process of the assignment. Help me out, expand my understanding of balance. That's great. I mean, really, alignment, balance, and hierarchy are what we're looking for in this assignment, right? Um, sans serif and the serif really help. Yeah, yes, absolutely. Typographic variety based on combination mix of serif and sans serif typefaces is just a wonderful technique, and I think that you worded it very well. You expressed your reasoning why very well. So thank you very much. Good job alluding to hierarchy and the typography. Um, Drop cap at the beginning article helps the reader know where to begin the articles about sending astrology mode. Yes, and I think it's really important, and a lot, and students really need to understand that there's nothing you can put in a composition that doesn't communicate to the audience. So everything communicates to the audience. Those big numbers you had over here before, they were cluttered. They're telling the audience this for some reason this portion of the article is cluttered, and if there's not a reason for it, the viewer is going to go, why is this cluttered? And it's going to cause confusion, and it's going to cause an uncomfortable tension for the viewer, pointing to something that might not have been a successful layout. I shouldn't say not as successful, but not as successful. So your comments make great sense. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to the article. This is fantastic work. It really is. It's really a good job. I think the typography is beautifully. It's inviting. It's not daunting. You got a lot of white space here. I think if anything, the typographic color might be a little bit too light, and I say that simply because your leading might be, you might close this leading down just a touch. It's not an issue. It's really not. I think it might be. Well, try it and see how you like it. Close down that leading just a little bit, and that incidentally is the space between lines. And see how it affects the typographic color of the page, and see if you have favorable results doing so. I think that the layout looks great. I think that the typography is done very well. Good rags, beautiful rags, beautiful. I mean, this is outstanding. Um, I mean, wow, your rags are just gorgeous. So great job there. Good hierarchy. Drop cap looks great. Subheads look fantastic. Um, Looking great. All right, let's go ahead and just go through some final recommendations. Image looks great. I would take this for some reason. I just think this space right here is a little bit odd. Also, this typeface right here might be, well, no, it's not. It's actually pretty good here. You're mixing a Didone typeface, a modern typeface right here with these ultra thin strokes, and the variation between thin and thick strokes is quite elaborate. Uh, I should say quite extensive. So the thin strokes are tiny, minuscule, little thin strokes, whereas the thicker strokes are much thinner. So the variation between thick to thin is pretty dramatic in modern typefaces. Right now, I think I wouldn't go any thicker than this. If anything, you could possibly even go a little bit thinner, see if that typeface has a thinner style. And this little space right here, negative space right here, I think it's uncomfortable. I really do. I would move this up so that the cap line of the T and the O align with the cap line of the cap letters in Mars. So you're just going to tuck that up a little bit and get the extra space at the bottom and not right there. Right now, that little negative space right there is, to me, it's a little bothersome. I think this is fine to be center aligned. Although I do recommend that you might even consider right aligning this. Again, just see how it feels, because right now we've got this left margin established. We've got obviously a rag on the right, but here we've got symmetry. So try left aligning this type right here. You can leave it centered with left alignment, see how that looks. And you can also bump the whole thing over and see how that looks left aligned. Try it, see if you like it. Typographic paragraphs look fantastic. One thing I would mention in your subheads is that right now it looks, well, actually, you know what? No, this is pretty good. Before, when I was looking at the other iteration, this one, it looked like there was a lot. This was equal to space before and after the subhead, where the space before the subhead should be greater to indicate to the viewer that that this subhead belongs to this type selection as opposed to belonging to this. Now, I know theoretically we should know that as we move top to bottom on the page. However, we want it to be specifically clear that this headline belongs to the type selection below it. Okay. Final recommendation here is your baseline alignment. Right now you're out of alignment on this last paragraph, which is okay if that's the end of the paragraph, that's the end of the paragraph. There's not anything you can do. If this paragraph continues, a really good technique right here is in parentheses, in italic, just say continued on page so-and-so. And that way if the article won't end abruptly. This sidebar setup is gorgeous. I think it's just beautiful to me to a very high degree. This is one of the factors that make this layout so successful. One thing I would recommend here is you've got the little rockets at the bottom of this image. Go ahead and use those. And you see how this is all masked out on the right hand side? Go ahead and mask those out so that they're just kind of sitting. The bottom of those get cut off with the bottom of the crop of the actual type block in the background, the gray box. But if those rockets come out, if there's any more of those, go ahead and do it so it actually looks like a rocket is placed over this. You see what I'm saying? Sidebar typography is looking fantastic. Good job. I don't see any orphans or widows, so that's fantastic. No real anomalies associated with any of the layout. So again, that's fantastic. I want to check one thing, and to do this, I typically grab my little text edit. And to do that, I'll have to let's just go open reset, and let's do this. Sorry, I should have had this up before. But what I want to do is I just want to grab a straight edge and make a quick measurement. And let's go right here. And let's grab that straight edge, and I want to measure this right here. Okay, the bottom, this right here, the bottom of this color bar background isn't in alignment with the baseline, and it should be. It's close. There's no reason not to, right? But if I put that straight edge at the bottom of that box, we can see we're out of alignment here. That should come up right to about there. So what you may consider either bringing this up a little bit just to align that. The top, of course, doesn't align. Now, another good trick for alignment is to take this type and make it align to the top of the box. That'll eliminate this kind of unusual, uncomfortable negative space right there. All right, fantastic work. Really loving this. So great job. If you have any questions at all before your final submission, please let me know. I'll be glad to make any clarifications necessary. All right, great job. Thank you very much.